Consumer expectations have never been higher. But with the evolving economic and competitive pressures, it's getting harder for brands to deliver the kind of consistent, compelling experiences that keep customers loyal. Can operations and facilities leaders find ways to meet these demands while growing their footprint and ultimately drive revenue? Let's find out. Welcome to Elevating Brick and Mortar, a show that discusses the crucial role that facilities, construction, and operations play in designing and delivering a compelling customer experience. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevating Brick and Mortar. Thank you for joining us. I am here today with Rani Gharbie, Managing Director, Investment and Development at CitizenM Hotels. Rani, welcome.
Hi, Sid. Thanks for having me.
For folks in our audience, Rani, can you share with us a little bit more about CitizenM Hotels?
So CitizenM is atypical in the hotel landscape or hospitality landscape in that it's an owner-operator of about 40 hotels across the globe. We are mostly operating and owning real estate in Europe and in the US. We are backed by three partners. KRC, our founding member, who created this concept about 15 years ago, and we're also backed by a couple of institutional partners. APG, which is a sovereign wealth fund or pension fund out of the Netherlands, the second largest in Europe, or maybe first, and GIC, a Singaporean sovereign wealth fund. The genesis of CitizenM was around disrupting an aging and lumbering industry. We brought into the industry some energy through a brand that positions itself as an affordable luxury brand, so brings an excellent product in primary locations in the top MSAs around the world.
Yeah, I want to talk more about CitizenM, but before we do that, I would love to talk about you, right? Let's start with, what are you responsible for in your role?
I work with a fantastic team of designers, architects, investors to deliver on the growth strategy of CitizenM in the Americas. My direct team is in charge of growing that portfolio, and that usually happens in two folds. Either we acquire land, we take it through pre-development, and we develop it. We do that solo, or we sometimes bring local JV partners that are able to add value to that setting. Or we acquire real estate, be it office or hotel or anything that could work without a lot of abortive costs to convert into a CitizenM product.
Now, can you share with us, how'd you get here? Like, have you always been in the hotel industry? What attracted you to it?
Yes, I have always been in the hotel industry, and looking back, I think it makes a lot of sense to get where I am now after 23 years in the industry. But looking forward, it was always chaotic, and not chaotic, but it wasn't a linear process. Answer your first question first as to how I got into the hotel industry. It wasn't a very rational decision initially. It was me being somebody that lived all over the world, speaks several languages, wanted to sort of bring into my professional world an industry that can make me feel at home everywhere. And hospitality seemed to be the right answer. Little did I know that working in hotels requires, there's a lot of sweat and tears, maybe not blood, but that goes through the process of working in an operating asset, be it standing at the front desk for 10 hours in a row, waiting tables, and all of that. So I started my career working, doing an elevator program with Hyatt after graduating from a hotel school in Switzerland. And that elevator program with Hyatt is basically gets you exposed to all aspects of a hotel asset. Front desk, housekeeping, food and beverage, accounting, sales, etc., revenue management. And graduating from that program, I realized I like numbers a lot. And I pivoted my career towards that direction a few years into my career, and worked with some of the large C Corps like Hyatt, IHG, For IHG, I led development for region across all brands, and then slowly my career morphed into going towards the real estate heavy investment side of things, and branding. So the owner operator sort of model. I started a business called Cedar Funds here in New York. I got an opportunity to join Richard Branson, who owns Virgin Hotels, and he had a mandate of growing Virgin Hotels in the U.S. So I led that, and then I joined another good friend and mentor of mine, Richard Bourne and Ira Drakier, who are the largest owners of lifestyle hotels in New York, who also were keen to grow their portfolio of an owned and operated portfolio across the U.S. to help them with that. And I continued that path and joined CitizenM to help them. Almost, the plan was to double the portfolio within the next 5 to 7 years.
And in that journey, it also looks like, at one point you were an adjunct professor at Columbia.
Yeah, I've been teaching at Columbia for, say, 8 years.
Okay.
Maybe 9. It's been just fantastic. Your day-to-day job requires you to always be up to date with everything and reading a lot and making sure you're on top of real estate operation, investment trends, and so forth, and tech trends. But teaching a bunch of 25, 30-year-old super sharp individuals that with an age of 25 to 45 years old puts you to scrutiny like nothing else. And I think that teaching mandate has two folds for me. One, keeps me sharp, and B, keeps me up to date with what the new generation is looking to do in our world. That you're always learning in these sessions, not just teaching.
I love it. So let's talk about CitizenM. I mean, how do you decide which country or city you kind of go and pursue? And I'd also love to understand, what is CitizenM's unique value proposition and brand promise to customers wherever you go?
I think they're very interlinked, right? So there's a couple of aspects to CitizenM that are key in terms of answering your question. I think one aspect is what was the genesis of that brand? Why was it created?
Right.
And it was created for the simple reason that what we realize is that in high density locations where you have scarcity of land, there was no affordable luxury product over the years. Which means that if somebody is traveling on business or leisure to central Paris, be it Champs-Élysées or to Times Square, New York, there's difficulty finding hotels that are reasonably priced yet have high level, high standards of design and curated design and responsive to the local community. And really sometimes disruption happened from lateral industries. So our founder, Ratan, worked in the fashion industry. So he brought that fashion aspect and design aspect and art aspect and attention to detail aspect into the conceptualization of our brand, yet surrounded himself by a lot of very intelligent people on the real estate investment side. And that's how the two things came to be. So then comes your question as to how do we decide where to be in what cities? Then of course, so the genesis was to be in a place where you can offer very high-end product at an affordable price. And the only way you can do that in scarce and high density, scarcity of land destinations, which is urban core of the top 20, 30 MSAs in the world, is by building smaller rooms. Not small, but smaller than your traditional hotel company. And you'd be able then and then it's a win-win situation for everybody. The consumer, the customer, stays in a room that feels great, that you have enough of what you need, but not what you don't need. And on the other side, we're able to offer a reasonable pricing because we're able to put more rooms within the same envelope of a traditional hotel. And therefore, we're able to generate returns that are acceptable from a real estate investment perspective. And so that's sort of the big picture. And then where to be in what city, we have a very elaborate strategy that we put together and refine every year. And there's probably hundreds of components that go into deciding what cities are the target cities for us in terms of status, current status, and future trends, population, business centers, travelers, purchasing power, average rate, positioning, rate compression effectively. And that basically narrowed down our strategy. We called the rollout strategy. It's about, say, maybe 30 cities where we want to be. We're almost there. And we like the whole concept of hub and spoke. You build a hotel or acquire a hotel in a destination, and you do a second and a third and a fourth. And that sort of experience curve is critical, because you have an operating experience curve that you could actually ride. You operated a hotel, it's much easier to operate a second, a third, a fourth. And also from a real estate investment and development perspective, it's much easier because it gets easier because real estate is a local game. Once you've broken the code once, it's an easier path moving forward. And in London, we have 4 hotels. In Paris, we have 5. And in DC, we have 3. Miami, we have 3. New York, we have 2. So that model is works for us.
Now, when you look at the type of consumer that you're trying to have walk through your doors, is there a particular type of traveler that you are aiming to build a relationship with? Where does CitizenM fit in, and how do you build that long-term relationship where someone comes looking for a CitizenM when you're in that particular city?
There's a lot of emphasis that has been put into our how we operate hotels and our culture in general, and done so in a genuine way, and that has very nicely translated in a high level of service that created a retention, of customers, repeat business, created some sort of a following, and a GRI that is pretty high. It's a customer satisfaction of about 90%. And to elaborate on that particular point, because it's kind of critical and different from the other players having been in the industry for a while, I think that stands out at CitizenM, is the fact that we really inverted the pyramid, and not in a gimmicky way. And what does that mean? It means that folks that are at a hotel level delivering service are actually on the front line and deserve all the respect, all the attention, and all the glory, and not the corporate office folks. And so our corporate office is not called corporate office, it's called support office. So we're basically in support of where the actual work happens. And you feel that, folks working at our hotels, they come through the corporate office and they feel at home. And the second thing that is important is the fact that we have an ambassador model of operation at the hotel level. And that means that our employees, our colleagues, they have versatile functions. They're able to be, one day at the front desk, checking in folks or helping them check in, because we have, automated check-in kiosks if guests choose to do so.
Right.
But if not, you have that human touch that's there. But the following day, if they feel to be a little bit more introverted, they, as part of their shift discussion in the morning and the afternoon, they can decide to be in the kitchen or
interesting,
or in other functions within the hotels. That created really a huge retention, employee retention, and employee satisfaction, and all of these pieces in the people business like ours translates into happy customers, because you're bringing the best of you to work, and also means that we're really optimizing the operation and profitability of our assets for our shareholders. So all of those things go hand in hand, and I think that's what CitizenM was able to break into, that industry that is controlled by the larger players. And the other thing that to keep in mind is that the larger players, as you probably noticed over the decades, have big systems, big loyalty programs, but what they've been struggling with for years, and having worked within those firms, is creating disruptive products. So what they end up doing is acquiring them, and so you need to be small and nimble, smaller and nimbler to create disruptive products like this. So Kimpton was created as an independent brand, then IHG bought it. Right. Moxie was created by IKEA, and then was acquired by Marriott. So you see that dynamic of disruption coming from the smaller players.
Now that's very interesting for sure. I mean, you talked about how location is really important for you. You know, the design, the construction is really important for you, and a big part of your kind of growth strategy is making sure that you find or build enough rooms where you can offer a great product and optimizing more space in the given area, which makes you more profitable. I travel a lot, and you could sometimes have to be part of that kind of motion of going to the larger chains because of some of the fringe benefits. But it can be underwhelming. Like you could have a big space, but like who cares? I don't really need space. What I need is convenience, a great place where I can work and find a good night's rest, access to food, and ambiance, right? That matters. Even for the little time you're in the hotel, it matters. And I was looking at CitizenM. I mean, your designs are bold and very interesting. How was that conceptualized? Is it towards the kind of brand promise that you have towards your customers?
There's a big part of it that relates to programming. So we're able to build really, really efficient product, and an efficient product that delivers exceptional return per square foot. And that's why we stand behind the real estate of our brand. Unlike most of the players in the industry, they either franchise management and the real estate is owned by somebody else. Here we are sort of fully vertically integrated. And then that means that we were able to create a concept that is disruptive, but at the same time, we're able to stand behind the real estate and make decent amount of money with it. And what that allowed us to do is to control that, create that closed loop of feedback, right? That is critical. So because you're vertically integrated, if there's a problem with a piece of furniture, you're able to bring it back up and fix it at a portfolio level. And not only that, but bring it back up and amend the brand standards for future development so you don't make that mistake again. Well, the traditional hotel world and the C Corps and the large chains over there, they're really smart and they can do that as well. It's just that their process is a little bit more lengthy and lumbering because they're dealing with hundreds, if not thousands, of owners of a specific brand around the world. So the process is a little bit more complicated. So that allowed us to really hone on a beautiful design and create it and improve it. And that's sort of really clear distinction in our industry, right? The other aspect is really more of a numbers game, and it's very important, equally important. And it's about programming the hotel to have as much as possible amount of rooms, so you can actually play in that arbitrage of renting it a little bit cheaper, but still making money, right? So think about your traditional hotel out there. The room is about, I'm just going to round it up, around 300 square foot, right? And that room sells for about $400 a night. Comes CitizenM, let's say the room is at 150 square feet. So in one traditional hotel room, you're able to put 2 CitizenM rooms. Well, CitizenM sells a little bit cheaper than your traditional hotel out there. Let's say $300 a night. So you're able to generate within that same real estate of 300 square foot, about $600 when a traditional hotel can generate $400. So you're generating almost 50% more on your top line. Now, you have to make sure that in your smaller room, our room is not 150 square foot, it's 165, but just for math, I was rounding it up. But you need to make sure when you're doing 160 square foot room that you're really, really smart with the design.
Right.
So that when guests come in, they're comfortable enough from a tech perspective, from layout perspective, from hygiene perspective, your bathroom separate from the shower and all of that. And we really worked really hard on getting that sort of refined over the years. And at the same time, we created a lot of convivial spaces in the hotel where people can actually feel at home. And the whole thing about CitizenM is if you're sitting in the lobby, we call it the heart of house of the hotel. If you're sitting in Cantine M or any of our other spaces, you would want to feel comfortable enough to put your legs up on the couch or on your ottoman, and that's sort of what everything is all about. We have a lot of art pieces that are sourced from local artists. We put a lot of emphasis on that. With the Bowery Hotel in New York, we got the local artists to paint the entire staircase of the hotel from top to bottom of the building. And guests are invited to actually go through that journey if they want to work out a little bit. I'm just going downstairs. It's not that much of a workout, but yeah, 18 floors. But still, there's a story there about the Bowery area and neighborhood and the history of New York, and that's basically an exceptional thing. So striking the balance between being a community friendly, employee friendly, as well as real estate astute hotel owner investor is what gets us to stand out.
I love it. Now, your website specifically calls out ESG and ethics as being very important to your company, one of your core tenets. I mean, I quote, it says, "We're not just a pretty facade. We have a good heart too. CitizenM always wants to do right by our guests, employees, business partners, and the communities who host us." Tell us more about this. Like, why is this important to you and your company, and how does it help guide how you operate?
There's also several aspects about that. So there's about everything that revolves around sustainability from a construction perspective that is super critical for us as well as our shareholders. But there's also being a community player, whatever we establish ourselves, is also very critical for us. There's a significant trend in the hotel industry, where some in the larger cities, where some of the travelers are actually seeking or perceive hotels as catalysts to a neighborhood, to a culture. And we love that and we embrace that. So a lot of our folks that actually come to stay with us interact a lot with our ambassadors to learn about some of the cool things to visit and see in the neighborhoods. And that for us is invaluable, right? So that content is critical. When we establish a hotel in a particular location, we don't just want it to drop. We're not dropping a pin on a map. We're actually getting the neighborhood to be part of the fabric of that property, because I think that makes a lot of sense for being a genuine hospitality product. And the Bowery example I just gave you is just one aspect of how we did it for in New York City, Lower East Side. But there's multitude of examples like this within our organization that the entire branding team is extremely proud about. It comes at a cost, a significant cost.
Right.
So it's not just a marketing gimmick. From a general ESG perspective, we've been I think rated as 5-star on the Global Real Estate and Sustainability benchmark for 4 years in a row, and that 5-star rating is awarded to about only 20% of the entire real estate assets that enter that. So that tells you a little bit about our drive to be there, and sustainably so, since we have 4 repeat years. And that also stems from our shareholders, who are very, very keen on investing in sustainable real estate and sustainable brands.
That's great. Now, Rani, a lot of the folks that listen to our show are from design, construction, architecture, facilities, ESG, basically, right? And I'm curious, you're pretty much like the growth arm of the business. How do you interact with the teams that are supporting what you do and how well you do it? And how do you ensure that they're part of the conversation? Because I'm sure a lot of the folks in our audience are thinking, how do they make sure that they're engaging with the right teams to ensure that when we talk about the brand promise and how you deliver it to your customer, a big part of it is the physical space. But sometimes you kind of build and then you move on and you forget, right? And that tends to happen in many industries. How do you stay in touch with those teams to ensure that you're not just looking at future properties, but what you're delivering to your customers every single day is up to par?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I think that makes me think of that closed loop that we have that is pretty critical. So just being vertically integrated is key, and being very close to the operating teams so we can do future deals much better. I mentioned a little bit earlier on when you asked me about what my job is within the firm. I said work with a terrific, broader team. And I really meant it, because I don't see the investment and development function being in any way dissociated from all these other disciplines. It's not a solo job, and investors within firms are known to be loners. They go and hunt for deals and come back with an idea and sort of impose it and try to convince everybody. I don't really look at it that way. I think it's a deeply collaborative exercise to get everybody's perspective. We have a lot of intelligent people within the firm and within our consulting environment, and we try to leverage that as much as possible. If you give you an example, we were looking at converting a hotel in New York, and we needed to understand if it makes economic sense to convert it, right? And that exercise, I know how much I would need to spend on converting the hotel in order to be competitive, right? Because it's an open market deal and there's bids coming, but I don't have the answer as to can we deliver on that conversion cost. And there's a lot of people within our firm as well as our consulting world that has a much broader perspective on what's happening elsewhere, not just CitizenM, what's happening elsewhere. How can we be more value engineered? How can we actually get to that reasonable value engineered conversion cost, so we can make that deal work? And man, the number of people that were involved in that process is huge. And it's iterative, and the first time and second time takes more time, and then it becomes more and more efficient. And hopefully, tech can take part of the future and add to the future efficiency to processes like this. But I think, everybody's input is critical. Construction folks on our team here are top class, and design folks on our team are top class, and brand folks on our team are top class, and each and every one of them contributes to the investment thesis that we bring to the table. And guess what? Sometimes we don't like what we hear from them, and sometimes we have to walk away from the deals, and that's fine. I'd rather do that if it makes sense, so long as it's an educated decision, rather than making an uneducated, abrupt decision, and then how complex the real estate and hotel development and investment world is, and figure out that you're not on time and on budget, and you have a lot of curveballs down the line that you didn't anticipate, or blind spots. I'd rather we do a little bit more homework initially, leverage everybody's expertise, than go in a hasty way towards just getting deals across the line and putting flags on maps.
Is your growth driven primarily by acquisition, or you do a combination, some ground up builds as well?
So over the years, we've done both.
Okay.
But given that we have a very, very particular efficient program, you have tendency to do ground up development more so than conversion. It's quite often cost prohibitive to convert
right.
Another hotel to our program, or an office building to our program, simply because quite often you need to play within specific floor plates or floor plans.
Right.
The floor plans can be too deep or too square, and you need to make sure that the buildings are not too big, because you don't want to sit on much larger than 300 room, which is our sweet spot for CitizenM. So there's a lot of things that held us back from converting a lot of assets, but we've done both. We have CitizenM in Rome, we have CitizenM in Copenhagen. There were conversions. Here in the US, I don't think we've done a conversion just yet, but we're actively looking right now.
Gotcha. Love it. So, Rani, let's talk about just the last 5 years, right? It's been an interesting 5 years, to say the least, and especially post-COVID. Being on the inside, you've seen how hotels operated was very different 5 years ago, and then how things are today post-COVID. Tell us a little bit more about that. Where are we at this point? Revenge travel, corporate travel is back. Is it really back?
Yeah, we went through the revenge travel patch. We're out of that now. So If you look at all the broad economic data about the industry, it's clear that the rooms sold, particularly in the US, which is sort of my home turf, is still below 2019. So the demand has not gotten there yet. And there's several factors. I mean, if you think about splitting the demand for hotels into a few categories, there's leisure, transient business, as well as groups. Then you split that between luxury and economy class or economical hotels. You'd realize that the luxury have been able to bounce back much faster than the rest, simply because there's folks that stay at luxury hotels have more disposable income and are less affected by inflation. What we're seeing is that the economy class is struggling a little bit more, and that's because folks that have a more constrained budget for travel are prioritizing paying rent and prioritizing paying car insurance than travel or spending on hotels. And then you go into those three categories that I mentioned earlier. You have leisure, which somewhat recovered over the years, but corporate has not. Work from home seems to be a paradigm shift. There's a lot of demand for it to come back from companies. And we're not here debating whether it makes sense or not, but just the fact that corporate demand is not back to the extent that it was creates a little bit of a lower travel dynamic from that segment. The one that is popping up, though, on the positive side is groups. We're seeing groups travel more, or take group meetings take place more in hotels, simply because companies are trying to compensate for the work from home.
That's
so they're getting people
right.
together, right?
That's exactly
to create
right.
culture and just we're humans at the end of the day. So trying to get those touch points as much as possible between folks. So the demand has not recovered yet to the extent, but on the brighter side, I was like, supply hasn't grown either. So interest rates were extremely high for a few years, and therefore your pipeline is one of the lowest in the U.S. So that tells you that there will be an equilibrium somehow, at some point in time over the next year or two between supply and demand dynamics, and yeah, so there'll be a recovery. It's just patchy a little bit now.
Got it. What is the standard, target occupancy rate in the hotel business? What do hotels kind of aim for?
At a global level, I think at the US level, I don't know, I think occupancy around 65-70%, right? But New York City runs in the high 90s. So that gives you a little bit of a sense of magnitude. The way we look at things is that it's not dissimilar from the rest of the industry, is that we select a competitive set for each location. And we get that competitive set of 4 or 5 hotels to be as close to our product as possible. And based on the number of keys, based on the amenities and the ancillary facilities like restaurants, meeting space, and so forth, we decide to index those competitive properties, give them an index of competitivity. And then we establish a target penetration index for occupancy and average rate. So we say, hey, listen, these 5 hotels in our neighborhood we compete against because they have either similar room product or maybe similar key count or similar lifestyle aspect to our brand positioning, and therefore we think we could compete against these hotels at 100% RevPAR occupancy and average rate blend, right? And if we can, that would be sort of our guiding principle over the next year, 2, 3. And as the industry evolves, if there's new hotels that are built in that neighborhood that we think are more appropriate to compete against, then we trade some hotels out and bring some others into our competitive set. So that's how we operate. And if you look at our portfolio, we have been really good at taking our fair share in the market. Sometimes, because our similar product to ours is not there, like I said earlier, there's maybe in our comp set in markets where there's no hotels like affordable luxury hotels. Sometimes our comp set composition is of hotels that are slightly higher positioning, such as what I mentioned earlier. If you're competing against a 300 square foot room and your room is 150, then that hotel is going to drive a higher rate. So in that situation, we might penetrate that comp set a little bit less than 100%. We're fine with that. We're fine to be at 90, 95, so long as we continue having the highest return per square foot on the real estate and deliver without jeopardizing the concept and the brand and that culture that we talked about.
Has there been a change in consumer expectations? And maybe there's nuance here, right? Like the business traveler versus the leisure traveler, but what's your general sense overall?
Well, I mean, COVID has been an absolute accelerator of the inevitable, which is, tech, right? Now, if you ask me at a personal level, I think the pendulum swung too far. And in some hotels or chains, there was, in order to create, contactless check-in and so forth, the entire sense of arrival was deprived of humanity. And I think that's when the pendulum goes too far. And I think now there is, or overcorrection, whatever you want to call it. Now I think it's coming back to a more normalized state. So from our perspective, we have just to one example, we have contactless check-in. So which became a big thing during COVID. But for us, we have the kiosks at the arrival of our hotel area, and folks can check themselves in, and it shouldn't take more than 10 seconds. That's the whole thing. But we have also ambassadors standing there and giving you eye contact and asking if you need help, and if you really don't need help, you basically sort yourself out and you're directed towards the elevator and you get to your room and you take care of your business. And if you need help, well, guess what? You have very well informed individuals that are there ready to help you. So I think COVID has created an acceleration, but we shouldn't just start falling into the environment where, this is not a hotel, right? It's not. It's not just a physical space. There's a human piece to it. There's a big dimension of delivering on your promise to travelers.
Yeah, because ultimately it's a hospitality business, right? I mean, I use digital check-in a lot, but even when I get to the hotel, though, I still want to talk to someone just to make sure if the room I've been assigned is the right room, and that I have some idiosyncrasies about, where it should be and high floor and all those things. You still want to talk to someone just to kind of get a thumbs up and, kind of get a warm smile. And then you feel, okay, good, right? It probably accelerates your check-in, but I don't know if folks want to be completely devoid of any human interaction, especially in this business, right?
I completely agree with you. I've been in this industry for a long time, and I think it's one thing is consistent through the years, is that it's a people business.
That's right.
And also traveling is somewhat I don't know if it's the right word, but somewhat a traumatic exercise. You're not traumatic, but it's like there is an unknown associated with it. And when you land into somebody's house or somebody's building or somebody's hotel, you're expected to be hosted by a host. Now, tech is a huge dimension that I'm a fervent believer on, and it can be applied in various facets of the hotel operation, investment, and all of that. But let's not forget about the basics.
That's
which
right.
Is human interaction. Yeah.
That's right. Now, Rani, there's a lot of interesting technologies finding their way into the built environment, right? What are your thoughts on that, being someone who has been in this space for so long?
I'm not on the tech side of things, but I share my life with somebody that is deep in tech. I see what's happening elsewhere, and I think our industry is lagging, and it's always been. It's natural, and not just our industry in hospitality industry, real estate in general.
Right,
it is always sort of lagging behind other sectors when it comes to incorporating technology. But it's just a matter of time, right? And the human aspect aside, and the no compromise on quality aside, there are a lot of inefficiencies in our line of business. Some of it is on the operation side, and that would need to be improved. And tech can add a lot to that. Some of it is on the asset management side, being able to monitor our better and predict better our CapEx expenditure, our benchmarking to competitors, and there's the investment side, and the process of vetting a deal can take day 2, 3, and involve so many people, when a lot of it can actually be automated. Trade comms are trade comms, and competitive sets that we talked about are competitive sets, and all of this information is there, and there could be a lot of probably errors in the process, and human supervision is needed, but you should be getting to a point that's to speed up that few day exercise or shorten that few day exercise to few minutes, and with monitoring maybe a few hours,
Right.
human intervention. But we're behind so far. We're getting there. There's a lot of tech startups that I'm meeting with that are trying to disrupt that space. One piece of technology that we use, and it's not really, it's not yet on the far front of AI, but I could see how it could develop, is monitoring our construction sites. So because we have deals all over the world and our team can't be on a plane all the time, we have the ability of monitoring our sites and seeing if it's lagging, if they're lagging in construction time, and based on what we have agreed to in the development process with our GCs and subs, and red flags come up. It's like, well, we're not where we're supposed to be in DC or in Boston or in London, and that sort of helps you be on top of so tech. Classic example of tech helping you be on top of your projects at a reasonable cost, most efficient way, and making sure that you stay on budget and on time, which is critical for the investment thesis of each project.
Love it. So Rani, as you look into the future, if you were to put a bet on what does the consumer of tomorrow look like, and what are the expectations going to be, and how will that change the hotel and hospitality business? What would your thoughts be?
I feel we're going towards a world where consumers would be more accepting of technology taking over mundane tasks.
Right.
But consumers would want to always have the choice to double click and get to a human in a very efficient way. And I think that's sort of, we're scratching the surface now of that, and there's a lot of debates, but I could see this becoming a norm where, hey, if I need to get to my room immediately, I should be able to get to my room immediately. But if I have a question, then it's my choice to double click and get to somebody to support me. Same goes with your food delivery. There's a lot of hotels in the US don't have room service, for instance. And if you want to be able to order a specific meal that you've been craving by going to LA or to San Francisco, then you have to have that extremely facilitated. But if you have a need to use the local community you're in or the local hotel you're in to get access to a great menu and great advice on restaurants, you should be able to do that.
Love it. Is there a North Star in terms of where you want to be with CitizenM Hotels?
The growth trajectory is really ramping up right now. So we just scratched the surface. So if you think about the past 15 years was really incubating that concept and standing behind the real estate. And the next 15, 20 years is to leverage all of that, to continue growing. The portfolio could double, could triple in the next 10 years. We have all the right ingredients to deliver on that. And so our target markets, as I said before, there are these 30 cities around the world, but we have also wave 2. So we probably, as soon as we feel that we've saturated wave 1, we open the door to wave 2 and secondary destinations or secondary cities where we would bring that product to market.
There you go. And for folks in our audience, who are in the built environment functions, what advice would you give them in terms of, if they're starting out in their career or if they want to make a bigger impact in the organizations that they're in, how should they talk about what they do? How should they elevate the conversations that they're having with execs within their business?
One super basic, perhaps, but super important not to lose focus of, is making sure that whoever comes into that partnership, be it your consultants, contractors, clients, that there's alignment of interest. I think it's so understated that alignment of interest can actually get everybody working in the same direction with the least amount of friction and resistance. So build contracts, build partnerships where it's not just transactional, where you're able to make sure that everybody gets compensated for success. It creates longevity and repeat business. With the same people that you're partnering with, you could have a second and a third and a fourth mandate. I think that's critical. The other thing that comes to mind is let's not forget how important it is to have a closed loop of feedback in any aspect. It can be at any possible level. You have the ability to learn from failures, learn from issues that you faced in a certain delivery, but make sure you don't just put it in a drawer and close that drawer, but make sure that you leverage that to fix your foundations again so you can continue growing and have better partnerships, better product, better deals moving forward. Yeah.
I love it. Well, with that, Rani, I just want to say a huge thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. For folks in our audience who might want to reach out to you, how can they find you and how can they contact you?
Oh, so anybody that listens to your podcast, they're more than welcome to reach out. They can ping me on LinkedIn, and I'm quite often very, very quick at responding. So please don't hesitate. And wishing you all the best. Thanks, Sid. I really enjoyed our interaction. You made it much easier than I thought.
No, I appreciate that. Well, thank you again, Rani. It was fantastic to have you on as a guest. And to all those in our audience, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you on the next episode of Elevating Brick and Mortar. Well, that was Rani Gharbie, Managing Director, Investment and Development at CitizenM Hotels. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you did too. It was really interesting to learn more about the inner workings of a hotel chain that is growing really fast, but is nimble enough to have a closed feedback loop with their hotel, their staff, or ambassadors as they call them, as well as their customers. It's very clear that a big part of their growth is driven by the built environment. They offer great spaces and luxury at affordable prices, while being responsible to the communities that welcome them. Rani talks about how it takes a whole team working together to make this vision a reality. It was also great to hear how Rani thinks about the future, that technology will most definitely play a bigger role, but finding the right balance will be key. After all, this is ultimately a people business. With that, I'm your host, Sid Shetty, and I'll see you on the next episode of Elevating Brick and Mortar.
Operations and facilities teams across industries rely on ServiceChannel to ensure that their locations provide the best possible guest experience. Keep customers coming back by lowering downtime and raising your brand standards. Visit ServiceChannel.com to learn more.